Our next speaker is James Farrar. He is the General Secretary of the ADCU, which is a union that represents Uber drivers and other app-based workers, and they have been involved in taking on companies like Uber, winning in the Supreme Court against them, and at the very beginning of the strike wave during the pandemic, kind of leading that industrial fight back. So I'm very pleased to announce James.
Thank you very much, Shabir, and be sure to get your crook and pull me off if I go too long. Thank you, Ellen. That was very inspiring, and thank you for all your solidarity and support of minicab drivers. Ellen's been out on the picket lines with us, and that's wonderful to have nurses and minicab drivers standing in solidarity together, because we meet late at night. There's minicab drivers that are driving home service workers late at night, like Ellen, and we talk. And things happen. How do we win? We win by organising. We don't win in the Supreme Court. We don't win in Parliament. We don't win. The only way we'll win is organise. And that's an optimistic message, but I'm going to tell you some pessimistic things along the way. Look, Amazon and Uber, there are two big global platforms. They're organised against us. They've got obscene power and wealth. They are, many of them, more powerful than nation states. They are welcomed in Parliament. Ellen said that the NHS is our NHS. Westminster is our house, but they're welcome there, and I don't feel we're often welcome there at all. And that's got to change. That's got to change with this government. It's got to change with the next government. But how do these companies get strong? They got strong through four things: through technology, through deregulation, through influence, and through austerity. Uber is a child of austerity. When the banks crashed in 2009, 2010, or 28, 27, when that was the time the Apple iPhone arrived. That's when mobile tech arrived. And that's when austerity arrived. And those two things come together to deliver a really important message. Last week I heard the Uber CEO telling investors that inflation was a tailwind for Uber, because all of the people who cannot make enough money to support themselves in their day job are forced to go out in the evening and work for Uber. That's what success looks like. Is that the future you want? Because we have to resist, because that's the future of austerity, of precarity that we have coming at us. Yes, we won in the Supreme Court, but that's not the end of the story. Uber continues to litigate against us 2 years later. We've got no agreement on working time. We've got no agreement on when minimum wage applies. And we've got no enforcement from the government. Now, my comrade Yassine Aslan, the president of the ADCU, will attest to this. We got a bill from our lawyers last week. They reckon it's going to cost us £200,000 to continue this fight. And that's where it comes down to, money. Precarious workers fighting for the minimum wage. Here we are, almost a decade later. Well, we started this 2015, and we're looking at bills of hundreds of thousands of pounds just to get the minimum wage, because we don't have a Department of Labour and we don't have a government that's interested in enforcing the law. And in fact, when we tried to organise as a trade union with a certification officer, she wrote to us and said, "Congratulations, you're a trade union. But if you don't win at the Supreme Court, we're going to take it away from you. Because you won't be workers. You'll be entrepreneurs. You'll be part of the capitalist class, and you've got no right to organise." Well, I'll tell you, we don't need permission from anybody to organise. But really, Westminster doesn't care. And I am concerned about the front bench of the Labour Party. We see Rachel Reeves doing photo opportunities. Rachel Reeves doing photo opportunities with Uber while we are still in dispute, while we are fighting in the courts and we're fighting on the streets. That's not good enough. That's simply not good enough. And besides that, we are under attack. So it's not only that the government are not helping us, they are actively attacking us. Let me explain how. Firstly, the Department for Transport have launched a new initiative, statutory guidance for how the industry should be regulated. And they see precarious workers, minority workers in this industry, as a risk. It's driven by Rotherham and the racist tropes that have come from that. And so what they're demanding from operators, from employers like Uber, is more data, more surveillance, and they're even, required to log their suspicions of terrorist activity by drivers. Doesn't matter how unhinged or how crazy that is, log it, report it to the police. Drivers are going to be required to present a certificate of good conduct from any country that they were a resident of for more than 90 days since the age of 18. Most of our industry is migrant workers, or people who often spend half the year in South Asia. That's one of the benefits of this industry. Now have to go and find certificates of good conduct from maybe something 50 years ago. That's what the government is demanding of us. And do you know what's really sad? Some of our members have said to us, the people that they want me to ask for a certificate of good conduct want to kill me. That's what people have left, and that's the hostile environment that we're treated to in our industry now. And, I wouldn't mind if the price we paid for that was protection. But there's nothing in this guidance from the Department for Transport that says operators like Uber should pay us, they should obey the law, they should pay their taxes, nothing at all. Finally, the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, the new department, DCIT. I'll invite you to make your own acronyms out of that. But we have resisted on data protection issues. We have fought to control our data because this is a data-driven job. And we have fought through the GDPR to get access to our data, to demand algorithmic transparency so we know how work is allocated to us, how we're paid, how that is personalized to you. And we've challenged automated decisions, robo-firing of drivers, robo-firing of workers without any explanation. We've challenged facial recognition, racist facial recognition technology that's been used with impunity in the trade, and we've won. We've won those cases in Amsterdam. We've gotten drivers reinstated. Uber had to pay them compensation of 150,000 euros. We come back and we've won in the magistrates' court to get their licenses back because they were wrongly accused by this technology. But what does the government want to do now? In this new digital data protection and digital rights information bill, please take one of these before you leave if you haven't already. The government, it's almost as if they've learned from us. They are now making the barriers higher for us to access data. So now, if the employer decides that your request is vexatious, they can refuse it. There's no such right at the moment. They are removing the protections from the automated decision-making that has a negative effect on you, whether it's your pay, whether it's the work that you've been allocated, or whether it is your job. Those protections have been ripped away from us in this bill. And finally, risk assessments of algorithmic technology that's harmful. The government wants to just tear up risk assessments and your right to be consulted on them. The government has attacked us in terms of Department for Transport regulation, in terms of data protection and digital rights, and they've done F all to protect us on worker rights. So what I would say is back to the beginning. We have to organise. There is no saviour coming for us. There is no silver bullet for us in the courts. There is no silver bullet for us in Parliament, although there is a great national treasure sitting down the way from us. And, I didn't do it, although somebody told me I looked old tonight. I didn't do it, but they did it 100 years ago, and we're going to do it again. Thank you.